Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Before I start, I want to apologize to the trans children and their families who have been forced to come to the Capitol again and again this year to defend their own humanity. I rise to speak against this bill as an educator, as a Texan, and as a Christian. Before my constituents elected me to this body, I taught middle school. And my students are the reason I'm here to make public policy that improves their lives. But instead, we're doing this, endangering the lives of some of our most vulnerable children to solve a problem that doesn't exist. When she laid out this bill in front of the Public Education Committee, Representative Swanson summed up the justification for this legislation in one sentence. She said, "If one girl loses a game, this bill is worth it." I guess we just have a different moral yardstick. Because I say if one trans child dies to protect someone's damn trophy, this bill is grotesque. My mother was a seventh-generation Texan, and she always told me that Texas is beautiful, Texas is bold, and most importantly, Texas is big. We do big things. We're the state that sent a man to the moon, and now we're picking on kids. Members, when did we become so small? We're supposed to be the friendly state. Friendship is our official motto. The word Texas comes from the Caddo Native American word for friend. And that's exactly what school sports is all about. Making friends, learning teamwork, and having fun. This bill is not what school sports is about. And this bill is not what Texas is about. Before I sit down, I want to speak directly to my fellow believers in the chamber. In committee, I listened to 15 hours of testimony on this bill. The worst part for me was the number of Christians who used scripture to justify hurting children. Even on this floor today, a member tried to justify a hateful amendment in the name of God's law. So let's talk about that. The first two lines of the Bible, the first two lines in Genesis, use two different Hebrew words to describe God. One is the masculine Hebrew noun for divinity. The second is the feminine Hebrew noun for spirit. God is both masculine and feminine and everything in between. God is non-binary. In Genesis 1:26, God speaks of God's self in the plural, saying, "Let us make human beings in our image to be like us." That's the infinite multitude of God, the masculine, the feminine, and everything in between. Trans children are God's children, made in God's own image. There's nothing wrong with them, nothing at all. They are perfect, they are beautiful, and they are sacred. Bullying children is immoral. It's a sin, a special kind of sin. To the trans kids watching at home, I just want to say,
for what purpose?
Will the gentleman yield?
Will the gentleman yield for questions?
Mr. Schaefer, I believe you and your allies have had enough to say on this floor this year, and I'd like to finish what I have to say. To the trans kids watching at home, I just want to say I love you, and so do a lot of people in this room, and so do a lot of people around this big state. I know it may not seem like it tonight, but you are loved beyond measure, and no politician, no bill can ever take that away from you. please vote no on this hateful bill.
Mr. Speaker,
Mr. Schaefer, for what purpose?
would the gentleman yield to hear some questions about some other things that are written in Genesis?
Will the gentleman yield for questions?
Mr. Schaefer, if you're going to use this opportunity to twist the faith that you and
Mr.
I both
Talarico.
share to hurt children, I will.
The gentleman does not yield.